At Harvest Solar, we power more than businesses, we energize futures. Thanks to the Illinois Shines program and expert guidance from Harvest Solar, one row crop farm turned sunshine into serious savings. With nearly 40% of the installation funded by incentives and grants, the solar system paid for itself in just 9 months, and energy bills dropped to as low as $15 a month. Fast, affordable, and future-ready, Harvest Solar delivers real results. Visit harvestsolar.com and discover what solar can do for your bottom line.
From the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning, and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, as well as Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more. And as always, the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, courtesy of Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Here's what we got new for you this morning. The DeWitt County Board's hearing for the Prairie Flat Solar Project is next Tuesday, and the DeWitt County Board Chair is reminding the community of what the hearing will look like. Board Chair Joe Whitty indicates this will be the first time a special use permit application will go through the county board. He notes it will look very similar to a zoning board of appeals hearing.
I'll say it's really the county's first siting hearing. We've previously had the special use process where the Regional Planning Commission would take an application first to go on to the ZBA where the hearing was conducted and then onto the board. So when the statute changed a couple of years ago, we looked at that process and we made a decision at that time to go to a siting hearing process. The application goes straight to the board. It doesn't need to go through the 3-step process. I think those who have been to a ZBA hearing, it should be very similar. It's an open meeting, so we'll have a time for public comment. But then once the hearing starts, that's where the applicant, they've submitted their application with all of their evidence to support that they comply with the state statute and with our ordinances. They will have an opportunity to present their application, and they will be subject to cross-examination by anybody in the public that's got questions or questions anything. Anybody who supports the project will have that opportunity as well, and then we will give anybody in opposition an opportunity to present their evidence as to how the project doesn't comply or any issues that need to be addressed by way of condition.
According to Whitty, there are going to be 2 segments to this meeting. There will be a section for public comment and then another during the hearing where the public can provide evidence about the project.
That's an important distinction, right? Public comment, it's an open meeting. Anybody can come and they have up to 5 minutes to address the board on any topic. And, in that case, you can come tell us what you think about solar. You can tell us whatever you want, but it's not evidence per se about that application. So if you want to address the board and you don't have comments specific to the application, you probably belong in the public comment section. But once we start the hearing, that's what the board is going to be taking, we'll be taking a record of that. There will be a court reporter, and if we need it, we'll have transcripts available. But once the hearing starts, it's anybody both for and in opposition giving an opportunity to weigh in on the application, not generally about solar because, it's a hearing about the application. And anybody who wants to present evidence is subject to cross, although, it doesn't mean that there can be a rough cross-examination. Share your thoughts, share your concerns. What I would say is, if you want to address the board, I would recommend, reading up on the state statute. Go out to your internet browser of choice, search for Illinois statute on wind and solar siting.
Because the county is mostly bound by the state of Illinois laws on wind and solar development, Whitty indicates if the application meets those standards, there is not a lot that can be done to deny the application.
And be familiar with what that statute says. It's important to note that the statute outlines what the siting requirements are for a wind or solar project. It talks about setback, noise requirements, things of that nature. And the county can't put anything on more restrictive. The statute says that if they meet the requirements outlined in the statute, the county shall approve the siting hearing. It leaves open for us the opportunity to maybe put on some conditions tied to operation. We can't put a condition on, say, that your noise levels need to be lower than what the statute allows for, right? So come in armed with that understanding, right? That we will evaluate it. We'll compare it against the statute. If it meets that, we shall approve. We have to approve. There is, if the evidence presents itself such that a condition is warranted, we can consider those and attach those to an approved application.
Whitty indicates this application is the first of many that the county is anticipating. He says tax credits expiring at the federal level are pushing developers to get their projects started so they do not lose access to those dollars. The Prairie Flats siting hearing will be at 5 p.m. on Tuesday in the county building. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, University of Illinois Extension educator highlights corn disease pressure. And every 5-year plan will be voted on at the next Clinton City Council meeting. On the WHOW Morning Show Thursday, City Administrator Tony Harris told regional radio that this plan encompasses multiple agencies and multiple scenarios.
It's the DeWitt County multi-jurisdictional all-hazard plan, mitigation plan, and that's something that's very important to me. I've been through this plan several times with my position within the county for CENTCOM, and I've been part of this for a number of years, and this is done every 5 years, and we just finished it up. We worked on it all last year. I had a different role last year in it. The previous city administrator had a role in it. This basically sets us up for any kind of hazard, that we might have, any kind of, like a weather hazard, flooding, tornadoes. It's sort of like a strategic plan to put us in a position where, if something like that would happen and we would need mitigation, then it's all planned. It's all planned out. But not only that, it also puts us in a position for federal grants. So, we are in the plan. The plan's 523 pages long. So that tells you right there that was a lot of work to do. But basically the plan puts us in a position to identify problems if we would have certain storms like flooding. We identified like Coon Creek, for instance. We've identified the areas that we think that we know would be issues if we have certain storms. Whether it's flooding, like I mentioned, or tornadoes, winter storms. So it's all named. It's a plan where we go to when a hazard strikes us, we know where to go, and again puts us in a position where we can get federal funding during an event.
According to Harris, this plan has been utilized before and evolves because of the ever-changing challenges of emergency responses.
We went to the plan, I believe, twice. And, it's a multi-jurisdictional, like I mentioned, Farmer City, Kenny, Wapella, the County of DeWitt, Blue Ridge School District, of course, Clinton School District, DeWitt County Township, all the townships, all the fire departments. So I remember this being a big deal when we would have the meetings. We would meet once a month, and the room, we would meet in the county board chambers, and the room would just be filled with all those, a representative from all of those, if not two representatives. So a lot of work went into this. First year, I remember being involved in this the very first year, and that we had to write the entire plan from beginning to end. So that took a lot longer. I think that one took 2 years to complete. Now we can kind of keep some of the some of what we identified, like Coon Creek, that's never going to go away. That hazard is always going to be there. So we know that's there. So we can kind of bypass that. We just have to identify new hazards. And as you know, it appears to me that weather is changing. The hazards are changing. So we have to address those every 5 years to be ready, to know where to go to find help. Dust storms is on this one. Yes. Yeah. So that's one part of it too.
The City Council will take up the plan at its next meeting on August 18th. Let's take a quick pause for a word from our sponsors. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show.
School is right around the corner. Let us help you get to class in style at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. This is Scott Baum. We have a great savings on the entire Chevy lineup, from the economic Trailblazer and Trax to the upscale Silverado or Tahoe. We have you covered. Our used and certified pre-owned cars are getting straight A's also. This school year, see all our inventory online. Chevrolet, together let's drive. BombChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
News time is 19 minutes after the top of the hour. I'm Ben Hubbard. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. The summer growing season has producers on watch for developing disease pressure for this year's crop. Commercial Farms Educator at the University of Illinois Extension, Reagan Tibbs, indicates tar spot is becoming more common in the central U.S. He indicates chemical companies are very focused on the growing concern of tar spot.
Corn, we're starting to see some diseases as well. Obviously, one that has kind of dominated attention in the last couple of years, but is relatively new for us, is tar spot. I think last year when you and I first started talking, I mentioned tar spot. Tar spot is one of those, like I said, it's been very common in South America. It's made its way up here to the Midwest and to the United States. We don't know a whole lot about how it got up here, but nevertheless, it's here. We got to deal with it. Unfortunately, tar spot is one of those that when you see it, and if it's in a very severe sort of infection, it can cause some very significant yield losses. I think I've seen some studies out of Purdue that have estimated that it could be up to 50 to 60% if we're considered a severe infection of tar spot. So that's definitely one that has been on a lot of producers' minds, on a lot of chemical companies, a lot of these companies that are making those chemicals and those fungicides to deal with these diseases has really been looking at.
Northern corn leaf blight and gray leaf spot are two common diseases that not only spread quickly, but the recent heat and humidity make the conditions ripe for their development.
We could also talk about northern corn leaf blight and also gray leaf spot. Again, diseases that really like these hot, these humid temperatures and these conditions that we have, especially if they're prolonged, like they are during the last couple of days we've had, they really, really, really love those. So whenever we get those type of conditions, plus we have the favorable host, these diseases start to become more prevalent. Depends on how long those favorable conditions are present. Some of these only need a few hours to really get going and really start to show their impacts. Some of these, I believe, with northern corn leaf blight, it usually needs about 12 hours to really become infected and really start to show this in. So it really just kind of depends. It's definitely very quick, and it's really important. And one of the reasons I wrote these two blogs was to highlight the importance of scouting, because if we're not going out there and looking in the field and seeing what's going on, and we might just see, oh, maybe there's one plant we see from the road that, oh, maybe that one's got it. Maybe I need to make a decision to apply foliar fungicide to do something different across the entire field. We have to get out in our fields and we have to see what's going on in order to really understand what types of decisions we need to make in order to really combat these diseases. Tar spot's one of those that you have to get ahead of a little bit. And generally some of these other diseases too, the leaves that are infected tend to be below the ears. And so when that's the case, there's some less significant yield impacts, but there still can be, especially if the infection is pretty significant.
While not in central Illinois, tassel wrapping is becoming an issue. Tibbs has seen reports from Iowa State University and Purdue University on the issue.
Yeah, I've seen on social media, and I believe Purdue has reported this, Iowa State has reported this too, something called tassel wrapping. And that may not sound very intuitive what it means, but essentially when we have our corn plant at the very top, the tassel usually just kind of hangs there free flowing. And then there's usually the flag leaf, the leaf that's at the very top of the corn plant. Well, what we've seen and what I've seen some pictures of and some other reports of is that flag leaf will actually wrap around the tassel and prevent the pollen from the tassel of actually falling down into the silks and starting that pollination process. And that can have some pretty severe impacts, especially as we're getting into this stage where we're at silking and we're at the beginning of the reproductive phase, if not a little bit far into it. If that pollen can't get down to the corn silks, we're going to start noticing some issues with ear development. And so definitely tassel wrapping. Like I said, I don't remember seeing a lot about it last year, but definitely this year we're starting to see a lot more of it. And one of the things that really causes that is heat and humidity. When you have really high temperatures, plants tend to kind of go into a defensive mode, right? They want to protect themselves, they want to conserve water as much as possible. And so that's one of their protection measures. When it happens at this point in the growing stage, we can really see some impact. I mean, at least scouting, you can at least know that it's out there and know what's going on. And that can be you can start doing that with a drone or doing it by foot. One of the scouting practices that I've seen and was taught a lot about when I was kind of going through college was kind of using your drone to get kind of a large picture of the field, see where things are at. And if you start to notice some issues in certain areas, maybe that's the area you really highlight, you really go in and take a look at. But definitely going out and walking through the field. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because when you start walking out there, you'll start to see some things that you may not be able to see from a drone or just see as you're driving by or in the first couple rows. Going out deep into the field as far as possible. That's the best way to really diagnose these issues.
Tibbs indicates that drone usage is becoming very popular for scouting. However, he reminds nothing beats a producer getting into the field on foot and getting a first-hand look at that crop. Action on estate tax reform unlikely during the fall veto session in Springfield. The specific legislation is the Family Farm Preservation Act, which is backed by the Illinois Farm Bureau. An update from State Representative Tony McCombie, who serves as the House Minority Leader.
Yeah, I don't foresee it, to be quite honest, in October for our veto session. Here's a really big and important piece of legislation that we should be passing, right? And I think it's just outside of also farmers, which is where it started. It's not just, it's farmers, of course, but also small businesses and business owners as well. The piece of legislation that seems to have gotten the most movement, or at least the most voice, has been dealing with just family farms. And that's a start. Incremental change in Illinois seems to be the best way to get things passed. I say keep fighting for it, and really more so, rather than the people that are supporting it, like myself and several of us, talk to the people that don't understand what a family farm is and don't understand the importance of the number one economic driver in Illinois, and that is agriculture. So we need the folks that have the power in Springfield, and that is the Democrats. They have 78 out of 40 in the House. It's up to them to call the bill, and it's up to them to have 60 votes up front before this even. This would fly out. I could find you 30 Democrats. I could find you 20 Democrats. We have 40 Republicans. We're ready to roll. But I think more so importantly, outside of even just this act here, is we need to look at holistically reforming taxes, because I think that's where you're going to get this project done, is if you holistically figure out how to grow Illinois and not just piecemeal it.
She believes there will be more discussion next spring. Taking a look at rainfall totals from last night, some scattered storms that came down pretty hard in some localized areas. Looking just outside of Decatur, only 0.03 inches reported there, just on the northeast side, a little south of Oriena. Going a little further south in Shelbyville, as much as 0.28 inches reported. On the east side of Moultrie County in Arthur, 0.2 inches reported. And as we head down a little further south, just north of Pana, 0.6 inches reported. Many other areas, such as Clinton and Springfield and Champaign, having 0 rain reported. Now for your local obituaries. Linda D. Foster Terrell, 60, of Bloomington, formerly of Waynesville, passed away at her home on Thursday, July 31st, following a 2-year battle with cancer. Private funeral services were held with burial at the McLean Cemetery. Memorials may be made to Waynesville United Methodist Church. Final arrangements were entrusted with Quiram Peasley Funeral Home of Atlanta. E. Dale Wade, 90, of Maroa, passed away at 7:12 p.m. August 4th, 2025, at the Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Services will be 11 a.m. Saturday, August 9th, 2025, at the Calvert Funeral Home in Argenta, with David Gardner officiating. Burial will follow at Friends Creek Cemetery in Argenta. Visitation will be 10 to 11 a.m. Saturday at the funeral home. The family requests casual attire. Memorials may be directed to the E. Dale Wade Memorial Fund. Merlene Clifton Hartness, 86, of Gilbert, Arizona, formerly of Clinton, Illinois, passed away peacefully on August 1st at Savannah House in Gilbert. Honoring Merlene's wishes, no formal services will be held. Cremation rights have been entrusted to Calvert Funeral Home in Clinton. Memorials may be made to the St. Louis Children's Hospital or Ronald McDonald House charities. Online condolences may be made at calvertmemorial.com. Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Germany's chancellor said